PHL17 presents In Focus, a look at the issues affecting the Philadelphia region. Now your host, Steve Highsmith.
A living history lesson in the Civil War takes place this weekend, 150 years after the war's end. More on that coming up. Good morning, I'm Steve Highsmith and welcome to In Focus. We begin though with a shock to some people. Nearly 1/3 of the nursing homes in the United States are getting lower ratings than a year ago. The federal government has a 5-star quality scale for nursing homes. Nearly 1.5 million people have used the ratings each year in recent years to analyze nursing homes. These ratings apply to 15,000 facilities. But this year, the government has toughened standards used to determine those ratings. So what should we make of the old and new ratings and what to look for now in a home? With me now is Saul Gruber, an attorney who specializes in nursing home neglect. He is with the firm Jaberbaum, Wergaft, Hicks, Kahn, Wickstrom, and Simmons. Thank you for being here, Saul.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
So why the new system?
As the New York Times said in a great article last year, it's because the nursing homes learned how to game the old system. And it wasn't working, and it was a fraud on the public.
And in what way was it a fraud? What
Well,
were they doing?
there are three parts to the system. One is based on surveys or inspections that the government does. Another is based on staffing. The problem was the staffing was reported by the nursing home as opposed to actually being checked. The third was based on some billing software which talks about quality indicators. Again, it's self-reporting. So 2/3 of the system was based on nursing home self-reporting. They learned how to self-report certain ways to make
So
themselves
how has it
look better.
changed?
Well, it's changed partially. It's in the process of changing. And what the government is doing with a lot of advocates' help is to take the self-reporting out of it and to make it much more objective. I'll give you an example. It used to be staffing was based on forms that are filled out by the nursing home. Now they're implementing a new system where it's based on payroll records. So therefore it can't be faked. Now that system was supposed to be in place already. It won't be in place till 2016, but that's a step in the right direction.
So they're looking at staffing, they're looking at types of staff, the qualifications of staff?
They have to look at, there's a couple different staffs in a nursing home. There's nurses, skilled nurses, so you can be an RN or an LPN. But the bulk of the work is done by aides, certified aides. Now an aide has schooling for about 6 months and has to pass a class. They're looking at that. Are you qualified to do what you're supposed to do? And more importantly, do you have the right amount of people to help the elderly?
What about medications? Do they look at what medications are dispensed or the procedures for dispensing them?
They do and they don't. They used to look at the procedures for dispensing medication. But again, that was part of that quality indicator in the self-reporting system. What they've just added is additional qualifications for antipsychotic drugs. There's been a real push that lately because antipsychotic drugs are being used in essence for everybody in nursing homes, and they're trying to crack down on that. So that's one of the new quality indicators for the new system.
Well, one of the things that's been discovered already is that while I think probably more than 60% of the nursing homes saw some drop in their score.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they fell out of their category, their star category, but they saw some drop. But you did have a significant number, below 50%, but a significant number that did drop, correct?
Correct. It's absolutely correct.
So
and
in other
they're
words,
in arms. They're very upset by it also, but yes, it's
they
correct.
think it's unfair.
They do think it's unfair.
Is that something that should alarm someone who says, well, they said they were a 4-star last year and this year the government says they're a 3-star?
You know, I happen to believe anytime you have a rating that's stars, whether you're buying a car, whether it's a nursing home, you have to take that with a grain of salt anyway. There's certain things you're going to have to do. That's only one small portion of checking out a nursing home. So I don't know necessarily that that's something that the public should be worried about. I would be concerned as to why a nursing home dropped from, let's say, a 4-star to a 3-star. And if that happened, I would want to talk to the administrator at the nursing home and talk to them about why that occurred.
Well, you're an attorney. People come to you with complaints.
Yes.
What kind of complaints do they come to you with?
All sorts of complaints. And the ones that we really listen to, the ones that seem to resonate and are bad, we never see staff. The nurses are never around when we need them. My mother sits in a diaper for 3 hours when we keep hitting the call bell and no one shows up. Things like that. They're not getting the right food. It smells. I've always said to people, do the things that we all know common sense. If you want to put someone in a nursing home, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like? Simple things that we would all do. That's the most important thing.
What about the attitude of the staff? Does that make any difference? Should you go in and see happy, smiling people Or, is it okay to see someone that's, kind of curmudgeonly, but might be just a really good medical provider?
I think it depends. I think it depends, but what we have to remember is this. It takes a special person to work in a nursing home. Because if you're an aide, your sole job, your sole function is waking people up who really aren't themselves anymore, changing them, brushing their hair, brushing their teeth, listening to them scream and holler. It's easy to be a curmudgeon. But if they take the time and they're patient, it's worth the weight in gold.
Well, I want to clarify the kinds of facilities we're talking about. Take a look at this. There are many types of facilities in care for elderly people, of course. There is independent living, but beyond that, there is assisted living, a continuing care retirement community, congregate housing, home health care, special care units, for example, for Alzheimer's disease, and nursing homes, strictly speaking nursing homes. Are we only talking in this rating system about that very last category, nursing homes, or any of these others affected by that?
We're only talking about nursing homes. And the reason for that is because the forms that are filled out, that we use the phrase quality indicators, only applies to nursing homes. And it's done federally. When we look at assisted living facilities, they're state run, they're state regulated. What I do see happening, though, and something we should really be careful of, is assisted living facilities have really expanded their role in caring for the elderly. And what they're doing is taking on people who probably should be in a nursing home. And now you're looking at different levels of care at an assisted living facility, and it's very bothersome to us as lawyers because we see poor care in a lot of situations, not because we have bad people working in the facilities, they're just not equipped to handle it.
How would you know if that organization says, sure, we can take your father, when really they should be saying, well, we could take your father, but he really ought to be in a nursing home?
That's the rub.
Who tells you that? Can your physician tell you that? Should you ask that of your father's physician?
Yeah, I mean, I think your father's physician, your mother's physician should be a part of the entire process. But let's face it, this is 2015. Our physicians aren't what they were 30 years ago. You don't walk into your physician's office more often than not and them say, hey, Saul, how are you? How's mom and dad? We now live in the world of not a family doctor, but our primary doctor. It's very scary. I would tell you that when an assisted living facility tells you they have 5 levels of care and mom needs to be on level 5, which will cost $8,000 a month, you better think really hard whether mom needs to be in a long-term care facility.
Well, you just mentioned money, and that's a key part of this. These facilities can cost on the low end a few $1,000s a month to literally more than $100,000 a year.
Well,
right?
It's worse. Yes,
worse
in fact,
than that.
We just saw a study that literally just came out in the last 3 days, where the average annual fee for someone living in a nursing home is $91,000.
So what if I were to say, look, if you want to pay me $91,000, I can get you great care, but you can't afford $91,000.
Nope.
You can afford maybe $25,000 a year, maybe. And if you can afford $25,000 a year, guess what? Your loved one isn't going to get as good a care, but that's all you can afford.
Well, I think it's a little bit different because Medicare and Medicaid come into play at that point, and health insurance. More Medicare and Medicaid.
So in no way then should I accept from any facility them saying, well, you can only have inferior care.
That's why you can't leave your parents at an assisted living facility in those situations. We have to separate assisted living facility from nursing homes. Assisted living facilities are more shelter than a nursing home. So when you go to one of those, we call them ALFs. When you go to one of those ALFs, or the independent living, or the continuing care, that's where you get what you pay for. When you get into the nursing home, that's where you get the care, what you get, everybody gets the same care.
Supposed to get the same care.
In theory.
As an attorney, are you experiencing that either federal or state inspectors for health inspection and fire safety are able to do their job in these facilities?
I don't think anybody's able to do their job in these facilities anymore. We live in a time where we're cutting budgets that don't help the economy, and that seems to be what is the big thing. Therefore, we call them ombudsmen, or the people who do the investigation for the states. They're always looking for people. We just got an email from the Ombudsman of New Jersey, Jim McCracken, looking for 7 new people just in Burlington County. So no, they can't do their job. And until we decide to put the elderly and the infirmed high on priority, they're never going to be able to do their job.
There's no substitute for a visit.
Ever. Ever, 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 ever.
And what, should you announce that you're coming? Should you make an appointment? Should you just drop in? Can you just drop in?
You can do what you want. You
in
can
a
do
nursing
whatever
home
you
where
want.
I don't have a loved one already there, I can just go in there.
Walk in, announce yourself, and you say to the person at the front desk, the receptionist, I'm interested in maybe bringing my mother here. Is there anybody here I can talk to? I guarantee you they were not going to say leave and make an appointment. And in fact, what I would do if you're looking at nursing homes is I wouldn't go once. I go 2 and 3 times. Go around mealtime. Go early in the morning when people are waking up so you see how they're getting up and what they're doing. And go in the afternoon where people normally work and you see is everybody sitting around in a chair in front of a TV and not being cared for. And the big thing is don't just go where the administrator wants to take you. They always have these beautiful rooms and they smell wonderful. The windows open, there's fresh flowers. Ask to go to the next room and the next room. And if they tell you, well, there's privacy, we can't bring you there, you don't want to bring your loved one there.
Well, speaking of privacy, then what rights does the individual who's residing there have? And what rights do the family members have in knowing what care they're getting, access, and even everything from medications? And how can you just check on that? And how can the person there, because obviously the person there can be in different states.
Well, that's normally what happens. Is it's really up to the power of attorney or the next of kin. So when you have somebody admitted to the nursing home, that's the first thing you do is make sure you're listed as the person who can have information. If that particular facility wants you to have a legal power of attorney, it's not really hard to do. You get one. You want to make sure that you can look at the chart, but you want to make sure that when you go in, hey, when did mom have her medication last? I see there's a tray on mom's table and it wasn't touched. When did you leave it there? Is there water next to mom? Is the call bell in reach? And a lot of us know what type of medication our parents take. Quiz the nurse. What did she take? What didn't she take? When did you give it to her? If you don't do it, nobody will.
Should I be caring at all about the age of the building? Can an old building from the 1800s or early 1900s be a great facility?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Because for a number of reasons. One is there's going to be inspections to make sure that facility is up to code. But more importantly, a building is a building. What cares for people are the people in there. So you can have an old building with the most caring aides and nurses there are, and that's what you want. Or you can have a brand new building with pianos and have some of the worst aides.
What about the range of medical services provided on site?
Well, I mean, in a nursing home, that's where you live. Let's be clear about that. It's not an acute care hospital. So doctors are only there every 30 days. That's when they come in. They're supposed to be called in when there's any problems, but I don't think we expect medical care at the nursing homes. We expect nursing care. We expect the nurses and the aides to be the eyes and ears for the doctor, but it's more often than not up to the nurses and the aides to get the care for the resident that they need.
This is not a problem that's going to subside, the fact that there are some nursing homes that don't measure up, because the demand is increasing every year.
Well, I mean, we're aging, and it's worse than that, though, because most of the funding for nursing homes comes from what? Medicare and Medicaid. They're government fundings that are being slashed on a regular basis. We see nursing homes that are having great difficulty in making budgets. Now, we also see nursing homes that are having great difficulty, claiming they're having great difficulty in making budgets, but seem to be putting a lot of money in their owners' pockets. But that's probably for another day.
We'll have to leave it there, Saul. Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
I appreciate it.
And next, the blue and the gray teach a Civil War lesson ahead on PHL 17.